The sky above Seoul turned an unusual shade of dark purple as massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They were huge metallic structures that blocked out the sun. People stopped in the streets, looking up with open mouths and wide eyes. Dr. Kim stood frozen at his control station in South Korea's Space Defense Center. His coffee cup slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. "Sir," called out Ta from across the room, "we have multiple objects in orbit. Definitely not satellites or space debris." The screens around them filled with images of the strange vessels. They had smooth, curved surfaces with pulsing lights along their sides. Nothing in Earth's records matched their design. "Are they responding to communication attempts?" Dr. Kim asked, his voice surprisingly steady despite his racing heart. "No response on any channel," Tae replied. "They're positioning themselves over major cities worldwide: Seoul, New York, London, Beijing." The room fell silent as one of the screens switched to a newsfeed. People were panicking in the streets of downtown Seoul. Traffic had stopped completely. Some people ran for shelter, while others stood taking videos with their phones. President Park was in her office when the call came. Within minutes, she was being rushed to an underground bunker beneath the presidential complex. Her security team moved with practiced efficiency, but their faces showed fear. "What do we know?" she asked her advisors once they were safely below ground. "Very little, Madam President," replied Defense Minister Jun. "The ships appeared simultaneously in our atmosphere about 30 minutes ago. They haven't made any aggressive moves yet, but they've ignored all communication attempts." A technician rushed into the room. "Madam President, they're broadcasting something." On the screen, a message appeared in multiple languages. The alien script transformed into Korean before their eyes. "People of Earth, your planet is now under the control of the Kelveri Dominion. Surrender immediately or face extinction. You have 1 Earth hour to comply." President Park's face hardened. "Minister Jun, what are our military options? We're coordinating with other nations, but conventional weapons may be useless against their technology." Within minutes, the world's military forces launched their first response. Fighter jets scrambled toward the alien ships. In Seoul, Dr. Kim watched as Korean Air Force pilots approached the vessel hovering over the city. "They're firing," Ta shouted. Missiles streaked toward the alien ship. Just before impact, they simply dissolved into dust. The jets themselves began to lose power, their electronics failing. Several crashed into the Han River. Similar reports came in from around the world. Missiles, drones, and electromagnetic weapons. Nothing affected the alien vessels. Then the Kelveri struck back. Beams of intense blue light shot from the ships, precisely targeting military installations. Seoul's defense headquarters shook as nearby bases were hit. "Casualties?" Dr. Kim asked, steadying himself against his desk. "Minimal so far," Tai answered. "They seem to be avoiding civilian areas for now." In the presidential bunker, Minister Jun received an encrypted message. His face went pale as he read it. "Madam President, I've just been informed about it. Contingency plan. Something called Protocol Orpheus." "I've never heard of it," President Park said. "Very few have. It was developed in secret by a global consortium after a discovery in Antarctica 45 years ago. The message says it may be our only option against this level of technology." President Park stared at the screens showing destruction around the world. "What exactly is Protocol Orpheus?" "The message doesn't say, only that it requires your authorization. It was deemed too dangerous to use except in humanity's most desperate hour." More reports of failed military responses flooded in. The Kelveri ships were now deploying smaller craft that began landing in strategic locations. "They're starting ground operations," Minister Jun said grimly. President Park closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her decision was made. "Do we have any other options?" "None that would be effective in time." She nodded slowly. "Send the authorization for Protocol Orpheus." Minister Jun handed her a special terminal with a single button glowing red on its surface. President Park hesitated for just a moment. "May whatever gods exist forgive us," she whispered, then pressed the button. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a facility unknown to all but a select few, ancient machinery hummed to life. 12 containment chambers began their awakening sequence. Inside each one, something that had once been human stirred after decades of sleep. Humanity had just unleashed its most terrifying secret. 45 years before the alien ships darkened Earth's skies, a small research team drilled deep into the Antarctic ice. They had detected unusual energy readings 2 miles below the surface. After weeks of careful digging, they broke through into a vast chamber that should not have existed. Dr. Han Woo-jin, the team leader, was the first to step inside. His headlamp revealed smooth metallic walls covered in strange symbols. The chamber was warm despite being surrounded by ancient ice. "This is impossible," Dr. Han whispered, his breath visible despite the unexpected warmth. "These structures would have to be at least 100,000 years old." In the center of the chamber stood a silver pillar. When Dr. Han approached it, the surface began to glow with a soft blue light. Within days, the site was declared top secret. The world's major powers, for once working together, formed a research coalition. They called it Project Orpheus. 10 years later, the first real breakthrough came when scientists figured out that the technology responded to human DNA. Dr. Han led this research from a massive underground facility built around the original chamber. "The technology seems to want to merge with organic life," Dr. Han explained to government officials who had come to inspect the project. "It's like it was designed to be used this way." A military general frowned. "Are you suggesting we put this alien tech into people?" Dr. Han nodded slowly. "That appears to be its purpose." After heated debates about ethics and safety, Project Orpheus moved to human trials. They sought volunteers from military special forces, people who understood the risks of experimental technology. Jin Do-hyun was one of the first to volunteer. A former special forces captain with an exceptional service record, he had nothing left to lose after losing his family in a terrorist attack. "The procedure is irreversible," Dr. Han warned Jin as he prepared to sign the consent forms. "If successful, you won't be entirely human anymore." Jin looked up at the scientist. "I stopped feeling human the day I lost my family. At least this way, my life might still have purpose." The first integration attempt was painful. Jin screamed for hours as the ancient technology merged with his cells. 3 other volunteers didn't survive the process, but Jin did, along with 11 others. The changes started slowly. Jin found he could move objects without touching them. Soo Minho could generate intense heat from his hands. Mina Jo-young discovered she could connect mentally with any electronic system. "Your bodies have integrated the technology at a cellular level," Dr. Han explained to the 12 volunteers. "The alien technology is now part of your DNA." As their abilities grew stronger, some of the volunteers began to change physically. Jin's eyes developed a slight blue glow. Mina's skin would sometimes display circuit-like patterns when she used her abilities. 6 months into the program, Jin accidentally killed 3 scientists when he lost control during a test. The oversight committee watched the security footage in horror. "These people aren't weapons," argued Dr. Han. "They're the next step in human evolution, guided by technology we barely understand." "They're exactly weapons," replied the committee chair, "and they're too dangerous to control." The decision came quickly. Project Orpheus would be officially terminated. The 12 subjects would be placed in suspended animation, hidden away deep beneath the Antarctic ice. The night before they were to be frozen, Jin stood with Dr. Han in front of his containment chamber. "What happens if you never wake us up?" Jin asked. Dr. Han looked tired, years of work and worry etched on his face. "A small group knows the truth. If humanity faces extinction, if there's no other choice, you'll be awakened. And if whatever threatens Earth is as powerful as what changed us." Dr. Han had no answer for that. The next day, 12 chambers hummed to life, preserving the transformed volunteers in a dreamless sleep. Only 5 people in the world knew the activation codes. The facility was sealed, buried under ice and secrecy. Official records stated that Project Orpheus was terminated due to safety concerns. The volunteers were listed as deceased in laboratory accidents. Their families received generous compensation payments. For decades, Earth continued unaware that beneath the Antarctic ice lay sleeping guardians, former humans now merged with technology from an ancient civilization. They waited in the cold darkness, the most terrible and wonderful secret humanity had ever hidden from itself. Years passed. The few who knew the truth aged and died, passing their knowledge to carefully selected successors. The world changed, grew, fought its small wars, never knowing how close it had come to unlocking powers it couldn't control. Until the day alien ships appeared in the sky, and humanity needed its hidden weapons at last. The Antarctic facility had been quiet for decades. Dust covered the control panels. The only sounds were the soft hum of power systems that kept 12 containment chambers running at perfect temperature. When President Park pressed the activation button, the facility came alive. Lights flickered on throughout the abandoned rooms. Computer screens lit up. A mechanical voice spoke to the empty air. Protocol Orpheus activated. Revival sequence initiated. Inside the first chamber, Jin's eyes opened for the first time in 45 years. His mind felt clear, as if he had slept only a night instead of decades. The blue glow in his eyes brightened, as his modified body fully awakened. The chamber hissed open. Jin stepped out, his muscles working perfectly despite the long sleep. Around him, 11 other chambers were opening. His teammates, his fellow guardians, were waking up too. Minna pushed herself up from her chamber, her skin already showing faint circuit patterns as her connection to the world's networks automatically activated. "It's happening," she said quietly. The invasion protocol Orpheus was created for. Su stretched his arms as he walked toward Jin. "How long were we asleep?" 45 years, 3 months, and 17 days. Minna answered before Jin could speak. "I'm already connected to what's left of the global information network. We're being invaded by an alien force called the Kelveri." Hyun, whose body seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light, joined them. "Are we too late?" "No," Minna replied, her eyes unfocused as she processed information. "But Earth's military responses have failed completely. Major cities are under attack. The Kelveri have started landing ground forces." The 12 guardians gathered in the center of the room. Despite being from different countries originally, they had trained together, suffered together, and transformed together. Now they would fight together. "We need to split up," Jin said. "Cover the major invasion points." Minna nodded. "I'm downloading their locations now." She touched each guardian's temple, sharing the information directly from her mind to theirs. "The closest is a Kelveri landing force in Cape Town." Hyun rolled his shoulders. "I'll take that one." "I'm going to Tokyo," Su said. The others quickly chose their targets. Jin would go to Seoul, where the Kelveri command ship hovered. "Remember your training," Jin told them. "We don't know how strong these aliens are. Start with minimal force and increase as needed." They moved to the facility's transport bay. Although long abandoned, the equipment had been maintained by automated systems. 12 small aircraft waited, designed to deliver each guardian to their destination. 45 years, Su said softly as they prepared to leave. "Everyone we knew is probably dead or very old. We're fighting for their children and grandchildren now," Jin replied. The guardians departed, each aircraft shooting up through a hidden shaft in the Antarctic ice and then speeding toward their targets. Hyun reached Cape Town first. The city was partly in ruins. Alien soldiers in sleek armor were rounding up humans. Their weapons fired green energy bolts that cut through concrete and steel. Hyun landed his craft at the edge of the city center and stepped out. He walked calmly toward a group of 30 alien soldiers who had cornered a family trying to escape. "Stop," Hyun called out in a normal voice. The aliens turned. One barked an order in a strange language, and 5 soldiers fired their weapons at Hyun. The energy bolts hit him directly, but simply dissolved into his body. Hyun had always been the best at absorbing energy. He smiled slightly as power filled him. "My turn," he said. Hyun raised his hand. A wave of pure force shot outward. The aliens disintegrated instantly, their bodies breaking apart into dust. Their weapons and armor fell to the ground with soft clangs. The family stared at Hyun with wide eyes. "Run," he told them gently. "Get somewhere safe." Across the world, similar scenes played out as the Guardians engaged the Kelvary forces. In Moscow, Su walked through flames without harm, his hands glowing red-hot as he melted alien tanks. In Tokyo, Jun moved with impossible speed, becoming a blur as he disarmed dozens of alien soldiers in seconds. In Rio de Janeiro, Chan created a shield of solid air that stopped alien energy weapons from hitting a hospital. The Kelvary, who had expected an easy conquest, suddenly faced enemies they couldn't understand. Their weapons seemed useless against these 12 humans who weren't quite human anymore. In Seoul, Jin stood on a rooftop watching the Kelvary command ship hovering above the city. He could feel the ancient technology in his body responding to the presence of the alien craft. Something about the Kelvary felt familiar to the power inside him. Jin took a deep breath and teleported, simply disappearing from the rooftop and reappearing inside the alien ship. Alarms immediately sounded. As Kelvary soldiers rushed toward him, Jin felt a strange calmness. Humanity had kept its most terrifying secret hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. Now, Earth would show these invaders why they should have stayed away. Supreme Commander Tella stood on the bridge of the Kelvary mothership, his tall frame rigid with tension. The massive view screen showed scenes from around the planet, scenes that made no sense to him. His perfectly planned invasion was falling apart. "What are these creatures?" he demanded, pointing to footage of Hyun walking unharmed through heavy weapons fire in Cape Town. "Unknown, Commander," responded his science officer. "They appear human but emit energy patterns similar to ancient precursor technology." Tella slammed his four-fingered hand against the control panel. "Impossible. This planet showed no signs of advanced technology during our surveillance. They were using primitive combustion engines and basic digital systems." An alarm blared through the bridge. The security chief's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Intruder alert. Unknown entity has appeared inside Section 7. The view screen switched to security footage, showing Jin walking calmly through a corridor. Kelvary soldiers fired at him, but their energy weapons seemed to be absorbed into his body. Jin touched the wall, and the metal melted around his fingers. "Lock down all critical systems," Tela ordered. "Deploy elite guards to Section 7. On Earth, the battle had turned. In New York, Minna stood in Times Square, her eyes glowing as she connected to the Kelvary communication network. Through her consciousness, she could see and hear everything the aliens transmitted. More importantly, she could interrupt it. "I'm in their network," she sent telepathically to the other Guardians. "Their ships operate on a quantum communication system. I can disrupt it." Minna focused her mind, sending corrupted data through the alien network. Across the planet, Kelvary fighter craft suddenly lost control. Some crashed into open fields, others drifted harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. In London, Su coordinated with human military forces who had recovered from the initial shock of the invasion. The British general looked at Su with a mixture of awe and fear. "What exactly are you?" the general asked. "The result of Project Orpheus," Su replied simply. "We're what happens when humans combine with technology we weren't meant to understand." The general nodded. "Well, whatever you are, you're turning the tide. We're receiving reports that the aliens are falling back globally." Su touched his temple, receiving a telepathic message from Mina. "They're not just falling back. They're panicking." Inside the mothership, Jin moved deeper into the vessel. He could sense the ship's power core calling to him. The ancient technology in his body seemed to recognize something in the Kelvary design. Tella and his elite guards waited in the central chamber. 20 soldiers with advanced weapons formed a barrier between their commander and the strange human. Jin appeared at the far end of the chamber. He looked tired but determined. "You should never have come to Earth," Jin said simply. "What are you?" Tella asked, genuine curiosity mixing with his fear. "No species we've encountered has abilities like yours." "We're human," Jin replied. "We just found something buried in our ice a long time ago. Something that changed us." Recognition flashed across Tella's face. "The precursors. You found precursor technology." Jin didn't understand the term, but he saw the fear in Tella's eyes. "Tell your people to leave Earth. Never return." Tella laughed bitterly. "The Dominion does not retreat. Open fire." The elite guards fired weapons far more powerful than those of the regular soldiers. Jin felt the impact this time, actual pain spreading through his modified body. He dropped to one knee, absorbing the energy but struggling to process it. "Your kind are abominations," Tella said, walking closer. "The precursors fell because they tried to merge technology and biology. It drove them mad in the end." Jin looked up, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Maybe so, but before the madness, they must have been very powerful." He released the stored energy all at once. The elite guards disintegrated. Tella was thrown against the wall, his armored suit cracking. Jin walked to the ship's control system and placed his hands on the main console. The ancient technology inside him connected with the ship's systems. He could feel the power core, could sense how it worked. With a thought, he began to overload it. "What are you doing?" Tella gasped, trying to stand. "Sending a message," Jin replied. Outside the mothership, the other Guardians had coordinated a global pushback. Kelveri ground forces were retreating to their ships. Human military units, guided by the Guardians, were regaining control of major cities. Minna felt Jin's presence in the Kelveri network. "Jin, what's happening up there?" "Get everyone away from the mothership." Jin's voice came through their mental link. "I'm coming home, but the ship isn't." The mothership began to glow from within. Kelveri escape pods launched frantically from its sides. Smaller craft disconnected and flowed into the upper atmosphere. In Seoul, people watched as the massive alien ship began to break apart, energy spilling from its seams. Then a blinding flash filled the sky. When it faded, the mothership was gone. Falling debris burned up in the atmosphere, creating what looked like a meteor shower over the city. On a rooftop below, Jin appeared, falling to his knees in exhaustion. The counter-offensive had worked. Earth had won. 3 months after the failed invasion, Earth had changed forever. The wreckage of Kelveri ships had been collected for study. Cities were rebuilding. The existence of the Guardians was now public knowledge, though few understood what they truly were. Jin stood at the window of the newly rebuilt United Nations headquarters in Geneva. He watched as 7 different spacecraft descended slowly to the landing pad outside. Each had a different design, representing 7 different alien civilizations. None were Kelveri. "They're here," President Park said, joining him at the window. She had aged in the 3 months since the invasion, new lines etched into her face from the weight of leadership during Earth's darkest hour. "Are you ready?" Jin asked. "No," she admitted, "but Earth needs this meeting." Only 2 of the 12 Guardians had chosen to remain active after the war. The others had requested to return to suspended animation, finding the modern world too painful after everyone they knew was gone. Some feared they might lose control of their abilities as they age. Jin and Minna had stayed to help rebuild and protect. The alien representatives entered the grand meeting hall one by one. They were dramatically different from each other. One was tall and insect-like. Another moved like flowing water. A third looked almost human except for its blue skin and 4 arms. All kept a careful distance from Jin and Minna. "We welcome you to Earth," President Park began. "This is the first peaceful contact our world has had with extraterrestrial life." The lead ambassador, from a species called the Valori, stepped forward. He had feathered skin and large, intelligent eyes. "We come seeking peace," he said in perfect English. "Your world was categorized as pre-spacefaring, yet you defeated the Kelveri Dominion, something no other developing world has ever achieved. The galaxy has questions." President Park gestured to Jin and Mina standing behind her. "As you've likely heard, Earth discovered something long ago. Technology buried beneath our ice from a civilization you call the Precursors." Several ambassadors murmured at this. The Valori ambassador's feathers ruffled in what might have been surprise. Rather than building weapons from it, President Park continued, "A small group of humans were transformed by this technology. They became our guardians when the time came." "The Precursors vanished millions of years ago," said a plant-like ambassador. "Their technology drove them to madness and extinction." "You play with dangerous forces." Jin stepped forward. "We didn't choose this path, but it saved our world. Now we seek to understand our place in the galaxy." The meeting continued for hours. Treaties were proposed. Trade agreements discussed. The aliens offered knowledge and technology in exchange for studying, from a safe distance, what the Guardians had become. After the ambassadors departed, Jin found Mina on the building's roof, looking up at the stars. Her skin displayed faint circuit patterns in the moonlight. "Everything's different now," she said without turning. "Humans know we're not alone. They know about us. There's no going back." "Would you want to?" Jin asked, joining her at the railing. Mina considered this. Sometimes, life was simpler before. Before we were changed or before the invasion. Both. Below them, the city lights of Geneva sparkled. People moved through the streets, continuing their lives despite the knowledge that Earth was just one world among many. "The ambassadors fear us," Jin said. "I could see it in their eyes." Mina nodded. "They should. The Kelveri were considered one of the most powerful forces in this sector of the galaxy. We destroyed their invasion fleet in a day." "Fear can lead to respect, and respect to peace," Jin replied. "And if more threats come?" Mina asked, turning to face him. "What happens when we're gone?" "The other Guardians are back in suspension. We're not immortal, despite what people think." Jin looked at his hands, remembering the Kelveri mothership and the lives he had taken. The power inside him had grown stronger since the invasion, not weaker. Sometimes he felt less human with each passing day. "They'll learn what we learned too late," Jin said finally. "That humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of our technology, but because of how far we'll go to protect what we love." Mina smiled sadly. "Is that what we did? Protect what we love? Or did we just become the monsters they needed us to be?" Jin had no answer. Instead, he looked up at the stars, each one now aware that the seemingly primitive planet Earth harbored the galaxy's most terrifying secret. Not just the ancient technology buried in its ice, but what that technology had created. Beings caught between humanity and something else. Guardians with the power to challenge the stars themselves. In the years that followed, Earth would join the galactic community. Ships would be built using recovered alien technology. Humans would spread to other worlds. But no matter how far they traveled, one simple truth followed them. No one who knew the story of Earth's defense ever underestimated humans again.